looking at me. Time is running and we're down by 3. Look inside yourself, what do you see? The pain is in your mind, no, nothing stops me. Everyone is looking at me. Heart is pounding and we're down by 3. Look inside yourself, I know what I see. Do you have the guts to do it for me? Gonna sweat, gonna work, we're gonna burn, it's gonna hurt, we're gonna fight, we're gonna score, we're gonna win, we're gonna war. Right of the glass, kick some ass, kick some ass. Right of the cage, turn the page. Time to break, not gonna choke. Game over, no class, don't gloat. If we win, we'll be the GOAT. Do you have the heart to give him some hope? Everyone is looking at me. Time to protest, I'm on my knees. Raise my fist so that everyone sees. I'm gonna stand up for what I believe. Gonna sweat, gonna work, gonna burn, it's gonna hurt, we're gonna fight, we're gonna score, we're gonna win, we're gonna war. Right on the glass, kick some ass, kick some ass. Right of the cage, turn the page. Gonna sweat, gonna work, we're gonna burn, it's gonna hurt, we're gonna fight, we're gonna score, we're gonna win, we are going to war. Right of the glass, kick some ass. Kick some ass. Right of the cage, turn the page.
Here we go.
Welcome to Puckin' Pigskin. Great sports fans talking hockey and football with a dash of everything else.
Hey, sports fans and friends, thanks for tuning in on the Puckin' Pigskin Facebook page, the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're coming to you live from Puckin' Pigskin World Headquarters in Red Deer, Alberta. Please smash the like and subscribe buttons and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we go live and post. And don't forget to drop your comments and questions into the chat, because viewer interaction is one of the best things about doing a fan-sided show live. We're back with a great show tonight. We have our friend Jimmy Fanizzi back to talk about the start to the NHL season, and more specifically the New York Rangers. Then former Calgary Stampeders tackle Derek Bonecrusher Dennis hops on to talk about the CFL Grey Cup playoffs and more. But first, let's start things off with the Fire and Horsepower Report, brought to you by the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast, Americans talking about Canadian football. Catch Oz Davis and Joe Pritchard keeping you up to date on the Montreal Alouettes, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the rest of the CFL every Sunday night on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel. Well, after going 5-1 to start the season, the Calgary Flames are now 1-5 in their last 6 games and are looking for a way to stop the bleeding. The Flames' most recent loss was a 4-2 decision against the Edmonton Oilers in the second game of 3 in the Battle of Alberta. The Flames and Oilers now have 1 game apiece, and the third and final season series tie-breaking game is not until March 29th. The Flames' next action is tonight in Montreal to face the Montreal Canadiens. The Calgary Stampeders have parted ways with special teams coordinator and assistant coach Mark Killam, defensive coordinator Brent Monson, and defensive line coach Juwan Simpson. Killam served the team for 20 years and Monson for 15 years. The moves came after the Stamps finished the season 5-12-1 and missed the playoffs for the first time since 2004. Stamps receiver Reggie Begelton and defensive tackle Mike Rose have been voted as West Division All-Stars. Begelton is also the recipient of the Calgary Stampeders President's Ring for the player who best demonstrates excellence on and off the field as voted by the players. You can see news and reactions from players and coaches at stampeders.com. Well, our first guest is back to chat about some New York Rangers hockey, just like he does on his show From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Jimmy Fanizzi, welcome back to Puck and Pigskin.
What's going on, Jason? How you doing, my friend? Thanks a lot for having me back.
I am not doing too bad. I've moved my studio into my travel trailer here in the backyard. And you may or may not know the winter is setting in now slowly, and it's starting to get a little chilly, but I'm surviving.
Well, it's just about finally fall here in the New York metro area. So if you can't tell, I am a little bit shot voice-wise, so I apologize. I'm not 100%, but I'm here and I'm ready to go, my man. So let's do it.
Yeah, I got a little thing going on too with my sinuses and throat, and it's that time of year, so what can you do?
Yeah, it's certainly not fun, I can tell you that. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. But anyway.
Yeah, so the New York Rangers are 8-2-1, currently sitting in second place in the Eastern Metro Division. Give us your thoughts on the season so far really quick.
I got to be honest, I really like what I'm seeing, especially on the offensive side of the puck. Because other than playing good defense in front of your goaltender, one of my biggest complaints with the Rangers has always been quality shots on net. Following this team for about a decade now, I haven't really seen a team that has gotten more crisp, clean shots on net up until the team from last year up until this season. They seem to be finding ways to actually find more open lanes and not hesitate so much with shooting the puck. And I think that has to pay dividends to Peter Laviolette's system. I mean, what this man is doing to this team really shows how successful of a head coach he is. He won a Stanley Cup with Carolina. He has, I think, the most wins by an American-born coach in NHL history, so it shows you his pedigree. He's going in the Hall of Fame. And I think the Rangers are very fortunate to have a head coach like him. And some of the players definitely have had an impact on him, especially Artemi Panarin, who at the time of this recording has 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points, certainly on the way to be at least in the discussion for the Hart Trophy again this year. And for those who disagree, you clearly do not watch hockey, because what Brett Hans has been doing for the Rangers, I mean, you can say what you want about his postseason play. I mean, I've had my criticisms about him in the postseason, although he did show up a little bit last season. But let's see what he does this year if and when the Rangers get there. But the bottom line is, I can no longer say anything bad about Panarin. I mean, what he's doing, this might go down as one of the best free agent signings the Rangers have had in a long time. And that's saying something. I've never seen a player like Artemi Panarin in my lifetime. Obviously, I grew up with Messier, Leach, Buka Boom, all those 90s Rangers from 94, all that fun stuff. Adam Graves, the works, Mike Richter. But as far as present-day Rangers, I have never seen a player come from another team that has been a more key free agent like Artemi Panarin. I mean, this man is just on an absolute tear right now. Again, probably going to be in at least consideration for the Hart Trophy. But as far as everyone else is concerned, I mean, you really got to like what you're seeing. There are a few concerns here and there. I mean, Mika Zibanejad off to a slow start, but I got to be honest though, he did look pretty good against the Islanders. He got 3 assists, including an assist on the shorthanded goal from Chris Kreider. And Zibanejad does have 10 points on the year, 2 goals, 8 assists, so a little bit slow scoring wise, but I expect Zibby to pick it back up. Adam Fox, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Fox penalty wise. He's taken way too many delay of game penalties recently, so he's got to clean that up a little bit. But other than that, I really like what I'm seeing from this Ranger team, and I really hope it continues.
Yeah, those delay game penalties, that's one of the dumbest penalties I think I've ever seen. I hate those. I cringe every time one of those comes up. Those and icing, I can't stand icing. I'm just like, just get rid of it. Just let them play. Let them play.
I mean, it is kind of a fair point, but at the same time, I do see why you call it, because I get why you say get rid of it, because if it deflects off the glass, I mean, if it goes over the glass, what's the difference? It goes out of play, whatever. But at the same time, I understand why it's in play, because you don't want to keep holding everybody up for too long, so you consider that a delay of game. I mean, with all these new rules coming out in the NHL recently, I mean, it's hard to tell what's a good rule and what's not a good rule. So, I mean, we can rant on that all day, but we'd be here for 2 hours, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know you got a stacked lineup today, so I don't want to do that to you.
Yeah, I saw today the Rangers, I guess it happened a few days ago or a week ago, but the Rangers finally got Alex Lafreniere signed to a 7-year deal. How huge is that?
It's massive. I mean, it's massive because the man essentially took a pay cut to stay. I was hearing rumors about him potentially signing an 8-year or 9-year contract. He took a 7-year contract. That's massive, especially for a kid who's, 22 years young? I mean, look, if you watched him play last year, he showed you why he was the number 1 overall pick. And yes, I was one of those people that was very critical when the Rangers got the number 1 overall pick in 2020. I said at the time, I was more focused on defense because they couldn't help out the goalie. But as time went on, I have noticed that they also have a shooting problem. So I do see why they went out and drafted Lafreniere. And last year definitely shows you why. I mean, that was by far his best season as a Ranger and his best season so far as a pro. And he's picking up right where he left off, and he's showing you why he's worth that money. So it's a massive signing. And I got to tell you, I think Lafreniere's only going to get better from here. And this is definitely a guy you can build toward your future.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because when he was drafted his first year, he was a little slow to start. Didn't do that well his first year, did he? And then he picked it up. Yeah,
first couple of years were a bit rusty. But you're expected that. You're just a young kid. You're a rookie. You're going to make rookie mistakes here and there. But as time went on, Ranger fans started to get a little impatient. Oh, when are we going to start seeing that number 1 overall pick that he supposedly was? And sure enough, last year and so far this year, he's showing you it.
Yeah. Now, Igor Shesterkin is knocking on the door of the goaltending leaders. Give us a rundown on what you've seen from him so far.
Well, certainly, he's showing you why he's worth $88 million. Let's just get that out of the way right now. I definitely have some thoughts on that in a little bit, but can you really say anything bad about him? I mean, the man is essentially carrying the team on his back yet again. He did it last year in the playoffs. He basically was the reason why they were in that Florida series to begin with. I'm just going to come out and say it, because if it weren't for him, the Rangers probably would have been swept. Just saying. But Shesterkin has been he's been amazing. I mean, he's a top 3 goalie in the NHL. I don't think anybody's going to debate that. He's probably the best goalie in the NHL right now. You can debate that with me all year long, and I don't think I would have an argument for you there because it's a legitimate argument you can make. But with that being said, when I heard those rumors about him wanting $88 million and turning it down, as a guy who has said I would not give him a long-term deal, I was actually shocked that he turned that down. A guy like him who wants to go out there and prove why he's one of the best goalies in the NHL, you're turning down that kind of money? But look, my initial thought was, and again, I know this is not going to happen. I'm not the GM, so please do not quote me on this. But what I would have done is I would have signed him to a short-term deal, maybe about 3-4 years, and used the rest of that cap to try and build a better team around him. But so far, the team is actually helping him for once. So I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. But at this point, I would just say just give Igor a blank check and give him whatever the hell he wants and call it a day. Because at this point, there's absolutely no stopping him. Yes, he's going to give up a couple of soft ones here and there, but every goaltender does. Let's just call it what it is. Goaltenders are human. They're going to have bad games. They're not going to win every single one. But Shesty, definitely one of the best, if not the best goalie in the NHL right now. And he's definitely showing that to start the year.
Now, what did you think about? I think Shesterkin signed his deal, and then Swayman signed his after. What do you think of Swayman's deal?
Well, he definitely set the tone for the goalie market. Going to say that much.
I think Shesterkin was first, right, and then Swayman.
Shesterkin did not sign any deal. No, he turned it down. He's going to be a free agent after this season, and then we'll see what happens either at the trade deadline or the offseason to see what he wants to do. But Jeremy Swayman, I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting him to stay in Boston. I was expecting him to get traded to somebody who needs a goalie, a la the Columbus Blue Jackets, but lo and behold, Elvis is on a tear right now, and Columbus is shockingly 5-5. They're actually not terrible so far this season, so hey, props to them. They're clearly inspired by Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, and again, sincere condolences go out to their families. I mean, that's got to be really, really tough to deal with. But look, Jeremy Swayman, I mean, I haven't really watched too much of the Bruins. I know the Bruins are kind of like on and off to start the year, but I mean, can you really blame it that much on Swayman? I mean, yeah, he's probably the highest paid. Look, he probably saw what Carey Price made one year and said, I want that money. And Igor was probably saying that same thing. I want Carey Price money. Now, look, Carey Price, I wish him well, but was Carey Price really worth that money at the time? I didn't think so. Yes, Carey Price was still in his prime at the time, but I didn't think he was worth that money. Again, I wish him well. I hope he's doing well with his health and his family, but even still, anybody who sees Carey Price money and wants that, that's what scares me. If you get that kind of money as a goaltender, you need to live up to why you're worth that money. And Jeremy Swayman, I worry that he's not going to. With Igor, though, it's a different conversation because he's shown you that at least he can be consistent. With Jeremy Swayman, I don't know. It's really tough. Again, I haven't watched too much Bruins hockey, so I really can't have a definitive answer for you. But I would definitely say so far, kind of rocky to start the year, but I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think any players are worth that much money, but who are we, right?
That's a fair point.
Maybe if they didn't pay the players so much, we wouldn't pay $16 for a beer at a game.
True. Yeah, have you seen the beer prices at MSG? They're ridiculous.
No, I haven't. Edmonton is bad, and Calgary, of course, is building a new arena, so I'm sure they're going to skyrocket too. So,
yeah. Look, man. As much as I like to have fun with the Calgary Flame fans, I mean, I have no hatred toward them. They've done nothing wrong to me. So, but you're gonna skyrocket. Everything is skyrocketing nowadays. That's why it's called inflation. But anyway, enough talk about that.
Yeah, so we were talking about goaltending, Igor Shesterkin, and you're saying he's the best goaltender in the league right now. But, you know, there's an argument for Jonathan Quick's numbers he's putting up. Last season, he was 18-6 with a 262 goals against and 911 save percentage. This season, he's 2-0 so far. Actually, last time you were on my show, he was also undefeated, I think, and was doing really well.
Yes.
I mean, are you as surprised as I am that this guy is doing this at 38 years old in his 19th season?
A little bit. Because, look, I was more surprised last year, to be honest with you. I mean, not so much this year because, he's with his childhood team that he grew up watching. I mean, obviously, he's going to want to go out there and play well. And last year, everybody thought he was done. I didn't say that personally, but I was not expecting him to have the kind of year that he had. I was actually really, really surprised with the year that he had. He was amazing last year. I mean, probably one of the more feel-good stories of the year last year. I mean, he got hurt in Vegas, still won a Stanley Cup with I'm sorry, wait, was it Vegas that he won a cup? Yeah, no, it was Vegas, I think, right?
Yeah, I think he was still there when they won the cup.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify that. But somehow still manages to win a Stanley Cup ring. So he's a 3-time champion. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Most wins by an American-born goalie in hockey history. Okay? So, look, does it surprise me that he's off to a great start again this year? No. Do I expect him to repeat what he did last year? No. Do I expect him to take a step back? That's kind of up in the air. It depends on what the team does around him, because that's a factor in how a goalie plays too. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Jonathan Quick is up for MVP discussion. With the way that he played last year up until this point, when everyone thought he was done, if he continues what he did, he might be up for MVP discussion.
Definitely a hell of a comeback story anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, it might be a hot take for some. I mean, but even still, you watched Jonathan Quick play last year. You try to convince me that he's not going to be an MVP candidate. As a backup, mind you. When was the last time you saw a backup goalie be up for consideration for an MVP? The answer is probably never. He might be the first if he keeps this up. I know Panarin's going to be in consideration for MVP and all that other stuff, but Jonathan Quick might be a dark horse if he keeps this up.
I don't know. Back in the early Edmonton Oilers days, they had some pretty good tandems.
That is true. That is true. But then again, that Oilers team was a dynasty.
Yeah. Look, when you were on my show last, you said next time you want to talk football because you're a big Giants fan.
Oh.
So let's do it. Tell me what you're seeing from the Giants so far.
Do I have to? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, look, man. I'll keep it brief. The Giants stink, okay? I mean, I've come to the point as a Giant fan where I've accepted the fact that we're going to suck and there's nothing I can do about it. Because, look, what more is there to say? Daniel Jones, I mean, he had that one good year. He led you to the playoffs. They won a playoff game. Hey, congratulations. That's all well and dandy. But he's not that good. He really is not that good. And I was the guy that initially liked it when they drafted him 6th overall. But I'm being proven more and more wrong every single year. And now I'm seeing why the Giants fans hated when they drafted him 6th. If they had drafted him in at 32nd, then I would have said, okay, then I can kind of see why he's kind of a below average quarterback. But you drafted him in the top 10. You're expected, especially in New York, when you're drafted in the top 5, top 10, to play like a top 5, top 10 player. Daniel Jones has not done that except for that 1 year, 2 years ago, when he made the playoffs and won a playoff game. That's it. Brian Dable and Joe Shane, they're expected to stay. No surprise there. I like Brian Dable. I think he's a good coach despite the fact that they're 2-7 right now. But look, the Giants, I really don't expect them to do much. I mean, they're obviously not making the playoffs this year. But you look at that entire NFC East, though. I mean, all of a sudden, the Commanders are the best team in the NFC East for some reason. It's amazing what a competent young quarterback can do for a team. Take notes, Giants. But anyway, Commanders are red hot. The Eagles are kind of up and down, but I expect them to make the playoffs. The Cowboys are a mess, and the Giants are just their usual selves. But look, it is what it is, but thank God the Rangers are my saving grace because I really have nothing to root for as a Giant fan because there really is nothing to root for except for maybe to lose all their games so they can draft another quarterback, which is more than likely what they're going to do.
Yeah, I don't really pay much attention to the Giants or the NFC, but I don't think the Giants have had a really good team since they beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl way back in, what was that?
2011.
2011, yeah.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up in a nutshell. You know, it's been what, 13, 14 years now since they last won a Super Bowl, and it's going to be painfully another 13 more years because they really have nothing to build on. What can you say about the Giants that has been positive? Look, Kayvon Thibodeau's been a positive. He's been a great defensive player. Dexter Lawrence has been fantastic for them. You lost Andrew Thomas, your best offensive lineman, so that leaves less protection for Daniel Jones. There was absolutely nothing to root for except for them to tank. I'm not at the tanking department, but at this point, if that's what it takes to get another quarterback, so be it.
Now the Giants play the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. A couple of 2-7 teams. What do you expect out of that game?
Oh, yeah, a real barn burner. Look, no, obviously that game is in Germany. It's a 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Look, out of all games you could put in Germany, that's the game you want to put? Okay. But no, look, last I checked, I think they were actually favored in that game, which is kind of a surprise considering Carolina beat New Orleans and got their coach fired. So that's kind of a surprise there. But look, Carolina's in a similar situation where they actually benched Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton, who, yes, is no scrub, but he's not any better. He's not that much of an upgrade. So look, I expect this to be probably a decent scoring game. Both defenses are not great. You know, if you're going to ask me for like a score, I'd probably say somewhere along the lines of like 17-13, 13-10, somewhere around there. I really don't expect much. Maybe the Giants could actually win that game, but other than that, there's really no other game where you can say, oh, Giants are going to win that game. No. Maybe this one, but do I expect it to happen? Probably not.
Hey, I can't say much. My Raiders are also 2-7, so they're not doing so well.
God.
I didn't.
Another mess. I'm sorry, but
I didn't see all of the transactions today. Of course, today's the trade deadline. I was hearing rumors about Max Crosby being traded. I'm not sure if he actually was or not. I haven't checked any.
That did not happen. No,
that did not happen. Well, that's good because that would be a huge loss there.
At least not from what I heard. Stand by. I'll find. Yeah. As far as I heard, though, that did not happen. Let me pull up Twitter here, or X, whatever you call it nowadays. I really don't. I refuse to call it X. I'm still calling it Twitter. I
do as well.
At least somebody does. I mean, they announced coaching staff changes. I got to read more on that. But no, Max Crosby is still there.
Yeah. So are you a Yankees fan or a baseball fan? Did you watch the World Series? Oh, sorry, I'm just dragging you through the mud today. The show started off good with the Rangers talk and then went downhill from there.
If that answers your question on whether I'm a Yankee fan or not, the answer is yes, and I always will be. But dear God, man, that the fact that they finally made it for the first time in 15 years and they go out like that, I mean, that was probably the worst World Series I've ever seen. Especially when you take into account they had a 5-0 lead in Game 5. And you lose like that,
Yeah.
that might have been one of the worst innings of baseball I've ever seen from any team. 3 straight errors. 3. Aaron Judge can't catch a routine fly ball. Volpe apparently can't throw. Rizzo can't charge. And Cole can't cover first base. What are we doing here? And the worst part about it is they actually came back and took the lead on a sac fly and still lost.
Yep.
So, look, I mean, there really is nothing more I can say except, look, I'm happy they made it to the World Series. That's enough for me to say it was a good season. But ultimately, they failed again because they didn't win it. Now you leave the question of, oh, now Soto actually may not come back. What's going to happen with Gleyber Torres? You got a lot of free agents. Rizzo's a free agent. Torres is a free agent. I know Garrett Cole's coming back. Luke Weaver's coming back, which is great. You need those guys. And, obviously Aaron Judge is still coming back. Stanton's coming back. And by the way, I don't ever want to hear anybody complain about Giancarlo Stanton ever again. Look, Giancarlo Stanton can hit 10 home runs in the regular season. Doesn't matter. He makes his money in the postseason. And he certainly showed you the past 4 years what that man can do in the postseason. Minus that 1 year they didn't make it, but that's beside the point. But every time they made the postseason with Stanton on the roster, he has showed you why he is money. Now, I know the Marlins are still paying his contract, but even still, Giancarlo Stanton in the postseason, top notch. Nothing bad to say about him. Juan Soto in the postseason, top notch. Nothing bad to say about him. Aaron Judge, though, is another story. I love Aaron Judge. I love him. 62 home runs 1 year, 58 this year. Great. Can we see something in the postseason? I get it. He had a couple of moments this season. I get it. He had that big home run in Cleveland. He had that big home run in Game 5. He had a home run, I think, in Game 4, I believe. He also had a home run or somewhere around there. But can I see more from him? I need to see more from Judge, especially when it comes to the postseason, because ultimately, that's going to be his legacy. What has he done in the postseason? So far, he has done very little to nothing. I need to see more. But look, the Yankees, will they get Soto back? I don't know. I want to say yes, but who really knows at this point? If they're not going to pay him $700 million, then somebody's going to pay him $700 million. Somebody has to. I mean, it could be the Mets. It could be the Dodgers. Who knows? But look, there's just so many question marks with the Yankees going into this offseason. I really don't know what to think. I'm still a Yankee fan till I die, but it's just really frustrating to make it all the way to the World Series once again for the first time in 15 years, and you bow out like that. That's embarrassing.
Now, to be fair, they did bow out to a team that pretty much bought a World Series, but that's a whole other show.
I mean, yes, the Dodgers were clearly a better team. There's no question about that. Look, Freddie Freeman, World Series MVP, well-deserved. The guy was just on an absolute tear the entire postseason. I mean, World Series, I should say, because he basically was asleep the rest of the postseason. I don't know what happened to him recently, but even still, look, he deserved World Series MVP, and the Dodgers, quite frankly, deserve to win the World Series. Now the Dodgers can say they actually have a legitimate World Series championship for the first time since 1988. Yes, they won it in 2020. I get that, but that was a Mickey Mouse season. That was a shortened season. But now the Dodgers have a legitimate World Championship. So congrats to them. Great year. They deserve it.
All right. As always, great insight on all 3 sports tonight. We covered hockey, football, and baseball tonight.
You really put me through the ringer tonight, man. But hey, listen, I've been holding these thoughts in for a while, so it was nice to come back on your show and
You gotta let that stuff
vent
out,
out some
man. Let
stuff.
that
You know what I
stuff
mean?
out.
What's that?
You gotta let that stuff out, man. Let it out.
Exactly.
All right. Great to see you, Jimmy, and we'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely, my man. And before you let me go, just a reminder, go subscribe to From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, and all other audio platforms. And follow us on all social media at Blue Seats 94 and chat with us with hashtag Blue Seats. But Jason, thank you so much. I can't wait to do it all again real soon. Have a great rest of your show. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, great talk as always with Jimmy Fanizzi. Sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live or post. And like and follow Puck and Pigskin on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm pretty much everywhere. Our next guest is a four-time CFL All-Star, CFL's most outstanding lineman in 2016, and a Grey Cup champion in 2018 with the Calgary Stampeders, Derek Bonecrusher Dennis. Welcome to Puck and Pigskin.
What's going on, Jason, man? Appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, I've been waiting to get you on for a while now, and thank God we finally connected and made it work.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Oh, sorry. I'm going through a little sinus thing here, and it's just bugging me, but it's that time of season. So
yeah, it's cold up north, man.
Yeah, where are you at right now?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, man, I wish. My wife and I are going to, we're flying into Houston in a few weeks, and then we're driving to Baton Rouge to go see a game at LSU.
Nice.
And then we're going to New Orleans, so that should be
that
fairly
should be a fun
warm.
trip.
It'll be warmer than here anyway.
Yeah, for sure, but it'll definitely be a fun trip.
Yeah, excited to go to a college game. It'll be our first college game, and it'll be just a crazy experience.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, well, it ain't nothing like the CFL for sure. It's a whole different atmosphere. A lot more people, a lot louder. Death Valley is definitely one of the unique college experiences out there.
Yeah. So you went to Temple University and played for the Temple Owls. Graduated from there with a degree in journalism in 2011. Was a career in journalism ever in your mind, or was that just a backup plan and your mind was 100% football?
To be honest, I always tell people that was really my plan A. I mean, I had no intentions of being a pro football player. It just kind of happened. I didn't even grow up playing football. Honestly, played 1 year of high school football, and I ended up getting a D1 scholarship just for being a big kid who was athletic. So my plan A was always to go to college, get my degree, and journalism was always one of my biggest passions. I love telling stories. I love, being in front of the cameras. I love, my mom will always tell people, man, I used to take the brush and be on the microphone. I grew up a big Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal fan, so I kind of idolized their path and what they wanted to do, and that was always what I wanted to follow. So that's what I pursued. But life always has different loops and hurls for you, and I ended up being a pro football player.
Yeah, you played some basketball as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Actually, basketball is my real sport. Like I played that my whole life growing up, and I had Division I college offers to play basketball. I even had a couple schools offer me like joint scholarships to do football and basketball. And that was part of the reason why I did go to Temple, because they kind of sold me on the dream that I could play. And at the time, that's when Temple had John Chaney as the head coach. So it was an exciting experience to go play for like a college basketball Hall of Fame coach, and think that I could play some football on the side. But they had other plans for me.
Yeah, so you were signed to a few NFL teams and played with the Arizona Rattlers of the Arena Football League. Tell us about your arena football experience and how it was compared to the CFL.
Yeah, honestly, I always tell people, especially as a lineman, guys with arena backgrounds always have really good CFL careers, because arena is really nothing but just 60 minutes of doing one-on-ones, and you really get a chance to kind of hone in and really work on your craft and become comfortable playing on the island and just really working on your one-on-one skills. So I'm always thankful for my arena experience. That's part of the reason why I live in Phoenix, Arizona now, because when I came out here to play arena, I liked it so much I decided to make it my off-season home. So it was definitely fun. It was definitely a unique experience in the pro football scope. And I always tell people, man, my pro football journey, man, I played in every single pro league imaginable in North America, and I was able to kind of take things from those experiences, and it made me the player that I was.
Yeah, I think you did. You were in the XFL, I believe. You were in the Arena Football League, NFL, CFL.
Yeah, everywhere.
So in 2015, you joined the Calgary Stampeders, and in 2016, you had yourself a year. You guys allowed the fewest sacks that year with 20. That was actually 11 fewer sacks than the next team, and you won yourself an Outstanding Lineman Award.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I came to the CFL in 2015, and I was actually, part of the reason I got to the CFL was John Murphy, who's currently, helping build that roster in Toronto. I really, I came into the CFL with no experience, no knowledge about it. I had a couple buddies who played up north. One of my best friends from college that's my guy through and through was Andre Douglas, and he played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Back when Winnipeg was in the East before they kind of realigned everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember him, and then I had a buddy who played up north for Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Devin Tyler. He actually won a Grey Cup with Saskatchewan in 2013. I think he was the right tackle for Saskatchewan. And I remember him and Devin and Andre used to always, when I would see them while I was bouncing around the NFL, they would be like, "Man, if you ever came to Canada, you'd be the man up there." And lo and behold, they definitely knew what they was talking about. I kind of hit the ground running. Once I got to Calgary, I practiced for like 3 days, and then I was starting that next week in Hamilton, and the rest is kind of history from there.
Yeah, and then 2017, you went to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders for a season. Then, by the grace of God, you were released, thank God, and came back to Calgary.
Yeah.
You guys had another great season and won a Grey Cup. Tell me about that team and winning the Grey Cup.
I played on a lot of really great teams in Calgary, majority of my time. I mean, honestly, 2016, we should have won that Grey Cup against Ottawa and Toronto. I'm still kind of sour about that to this day because, we had a chance to win the game with 32 seconds on the 2-yard line. And then we ran that quarterback, play that, Dave likes to always run, and it kind of backfired on us. I wish he just called it behind me and Shea Bergman and let us go get it. Let us go get a Grey Cup. So I probably would have 2 rings right now if it was a different type of call. But I mean, that 2016 team was phenomenal. I mean, we was teetering on having one of the greatest CFL seasons. If we didn't lose that last game in Montreal because we sat all the starters. I was pretty, peeved about that because I really wanted to get that record. But we had a great year, and then also too, that was the year we lost Mila, and then we went through all that, that adversity right there with that in the middle of the season after we had beat Winnipeg for that 11-game win streak. But I mean, 2018 was a great team as well. A lot of the same guys, a couple of different bodies, but same thing, man. We just had a really great roster from the defense to the offense. I mean, we had Bo Levi, quarterback. We had Don Jackson and running back, and then we had Terry Williams, who was one of the best returners in the league that year. We had Eric Rogers. We had Chris Matthews, who was a great CFL receiver. We had Bakari Gray, and those are guys that was playing because we had a ton of injuries. Mark and Michelle was on that team and he didn't even play in the game. DeVaris Daniels was on that team and didn't even play in the game. So, Waters was on that team, didn't play in the game. We had Flo, we had Micah, we had Charleston, we had we had Junior. We had Wiggin, man. We just had dogs all over the place. B. Smitty, man. Wall. We had Trey Roberson. That was his rookie year. So, Like we just had guys all over the place that could just play the game at a high level, man. So that team was destined to do some great things, and I was, super excited to get a chance to come back and be on that team and be a part of it. Man, I forgot my dog KJ. We had Kamar Jordan. I mean, like the names just go on forever. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, there's so many,
yeah, so many guys that just had great CFL careers and impacted the game, man. So that team was destined to do something, and I was glad. Alex Singleton and middle linebacker, man. We had, Jameer Thurman, like it was just guys everywhere. So, yeah, that team was destined to do something. I'm glad we got a chance to, bring the Grey Cup back to Calgary and to celebrate it. And I was definitely one of the greatest times of my life, man. And then, 2019, we didn't get it done. And then, I sat out for 2 years, 2020, 2021, and I came back in 22, like I never left. So, I wish I got a chance to kind of play my last season, and honestly, I still could play to this day. I mean, I still got the juice to go and the skill, man. I always wanted to get to 100 career games, but I didn't get that opportunity. But yeah, man, it was great times, man. I feel like I did enough to be a name that's always remembered, and as one of the great Calgary Stampeder O-linemen, and just one of the great tackles to play in the CFL. And I remember getting voted on that all decade team by TSN as one of the top 4 tackles of the 2010s. So yeah, man, I feel like I did some great things, man. It was a great time in my life.
You definitely did, and I think you mentioned the whole team except Rennie Paredes there.
Oh yeah, I mean Renee is.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, Calgary might as well just make Renee the logo, man. Like honestly.
And you reminded me of that 2016 Grey Cup, probably one of the worst play calls, other than the Seahawks passing the ball instead of handing it to Sherman.
Man, honestly, man, we had Jerome Messam at running back, who was most outstanding Canadian that year. He's 6'3", 260. Rushed for 1,300 yards that year. Like we had the team to get it done, and I think part of it, we just went into that game just kind of taking Ottawa a little light. And then honestly, man, Henry Burris, shout out to the fellow Temple Owl. He's a good friend of mine. I mean, he when he got injured in pregame, I was like, oh yeah, for sure, it's easy. And then he pulled the Willis Reed and came out the locker room and just kind of lit us up. That game, man, probably one of the greatest games a CFL quarterback could play in a championship. So, big shout out to him. The Ottawa team was really good, man. They had a lot of good players too. So, it sucked that we couldn't get it done, man. And even though we had the chance to, it just wasn't in the cards for us that year.
Yeah. So you mentioned you came back to the Stampeders in 22. Unfortunately, fractured your fibula a month into the season, and the following season you were released and then eventually retired. What have you been doing since retiring? What's happening down there in Arizona?
Man, I'm actually in upper management for PepsiCo, Frito-Lay. Doing really good for myself, just in corporate America, climbing the corporate America ladder. I always prided myself on not just being a football player, but being a really smart individual and being able to be versatile. I've always been a good leader, a person that can influence and get people to get the job done and lead by example. So what I did as a pro football player kind of helped me make that transition for life after the game. And then I'm also coaching high school football right now.
Nice.
Shout out to the high school I'm coaching at, AZ Compass Prep in Chandler, Arizona. We went 9-0, undefeated, first time in school history. Desert Regional champs. We got a first round bye for the state playoffs, and we play in the state semifinal next week. And if we win that, we got a chance to win the state championship. So honestly, I guess I'm DJ Khaled, man. All I do is win. So
That's right. That's right. Speaking of corporate America, did you go vote?
Yeah. I got a chance to go in and go vote. I was actually watching the election to see what was going on, but yeah, man, it's always a crazy time in the States this time of year. I'm just glad I won't get spam calls and texts anymore after today. So.
Yeah. But believe it or not, up here, we probably hear about it just as much as you do. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the United States of America is one of those, top tier countries that just, everybody kind of pays attention to what it is. And it's always a big player in politics and in world, world issues. So it's always a big thing. But yeah, I mean, the president of the United States it's kind of become a spectacle. Actually, it's crazy. You was allowed to bet on who would win to be the president. That's how crazy it is now in the States. Like you could go on the betting sites and put in a bet to see if Kamala or Trump won, and you got a chance to, win some money betting on the presidential election. So that just shows you, how crazy the world is right now.
I'm curious, what was the line on Trump and Kamala?
I think Trump was the favorite. I think Kamala was the underdog. So, last I looked at the numbers, I think Trump got a nice lead on her. So, I mean, I figured if he ran for president again, he probably had a good chance to win because he just, he's a personality. He's always been somebody that can influence people to, believe in what he says. And even though he doesn't always send the right message about a lot of topics, a lot of people agree with him and feel like when he was president, things was good, not realizing that all the stuff that we've been dealing with the last 4 years was all the stuff that Trump kind of put into play. That's kind of how it works. Normally it's the president after that has to deal with all the stuff the president before put in. So we'll see how things go. I mean, honestly, I'm in my own little silo in the sense of life and just making sure I'm taking care of, what I need to take care of and just making sure that, my wife and my kids and my house is good. So.
That's good. Yeah. Speaking of politics and big news, the big news this past week, obviously, is the Calgary Stampeders letting go of 3 assistant coaches, Mark Killam, Brent Monson, and Juwan Simpson. Give me your thoughts on that.
I kind of put something out on Twitter already, but yeah, I mean, letting Killam go was it was asinine. It was dumb. I mean, you can't say you're trying to build a championship team and you let a coach like Killam go, was pretty much everybody's favorite coach. I mean, the guy knew the game. He was one of the best. He's one of the best special teams coaches in the league. Granted, he's had the last 2 years have been tough, but I think most of that has to be attributed to the roster that was given for him to work with. And just the talent, in the CFL, to me, is not as good as it was when I was in the league. Like there's still a couple of OGs in the league that's still playing well, but I mean, in the sense of like incoming talent and rookies, man, it just doesn't seem to the same tier that it used to be. And just watch me be in amateur sports now and seeing how these players respond to certain types of coaching. I mean, the game is always evolving in the sense of the type of personalities and characters that's being built. I mean, I think college athletes now with all this NIL stuff is just going to have a different mentality as pro football players. And that old school mindset of coaching is it's not really going to work, man. You see Nick Saban had to, step away from college football because he knew the way he coached and what he expected and how he pushed his players, it just doesn't work in today's game with today's people and today's athletes. So I think right now that's probably what's going on with Calgary is that the quote unquote Stampeder way is just not really conducive to the new age of athletes, man. And I think Calgary is very sorely missing on getting down with the times. And a guy like Killam, who always found a way to relate to players and connect with them and get them to play hard. When a guy like that struggles to get guys to play to the level of expectation, that, and again, somebody got to be the fall guy. I mean, once they said Dave was coming back, you knew somebody had to kind of fall on the sword for the down times that the Stamps have having. But sucks that it's Killam, man. Killam's one of my guys. I love him to death. I actually texted him the other day just to let him know, like, hey, I'm rooting for him. I'm sorry to see him go through it because I know what it feels like to be scapegoated and thrown to the side and people to think, oh, it's this guy when it's really other things in play behind the scenes. So, yeah, man. Monson too. I spoke to Monson too. I got a great relationship with him. I know he was kind of bummed out, but I just I got a lot of great relationships with a lot of the coaches that I played for, a lot of the players that I played with, and just being able to reach out to those guys still and just let them know, hey, give them some words of encouragement, even though I know they really don't need it, but it's nice to hear from people, when they support you and they, show you love. Because Killam was actually the only coach that when I got cut, he was the only coach who texted me and told me, like, hey, he loved me, and he appreciates what I did for the team, and he hopes things go out well for me. So when people do stuff like that, you always remember that. So shout out to Killam. I played with Juwan.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I played with Juwan, so I know what type of guy he is and the type of player he is. And again, he was put in a tough spot too as well, man, having to coach a position that he didn't really know much about, and just not being able to get the guys to buy into him, and then him just kind of getting scapegoated like that is just it's politics, part of the game. It is what it is. But those three guys have bounced back really well. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, Dave Dickinson's the GM and head coach. He's not going to fire himself as head coach, so somebody had to take the brunt.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I honestly, I got my own personal feelings about Dave and the type of person he is and his style of coaching. And I think, you could kind of see it from the way the team was playing that he had lost that locker room at some point. And I think Dave he's not one of those personalities that could get guys to kind of pump themselves up and rally behind him. Killam is that guy. I think Killam had it. Dave did it, and you saw that last season when Dave couldn't coach and Killam had to take over as a head coach for the team, and you saw how hard they played for him in Ottawa to get that win. So,
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think Killam's got a bright future, man. He's got a lot of coaching pedigree, a lot of players who support him and love him. So I think he'll be just fine.
Do you think it's not a good idea for Dave to handle the GM and head coaching duties, because you don't really do that in the CFL. You don't see that a whole lot.
Yeah, man. I think for me, him being the GM is tough because his coaching career is mostly made on just being a position coach and then going to a coordinator, and then he kind of got handed great teams when he got thrown into being the head coach.
Yeah.
But I don't think he has that same eye for talent that Huff had, and he doesn't have the I'm not gonna say he doesn't have the knowledge, but his viewpoint on the game and his viewpoint on players is not what it should be to be able to build a championship roster. Because I remember times when I was still there and he would reach out to me about certain linemen and be like, hey, could you talk to this guy? I think we could use him. And I would tell him, like, no, that guy sucks. Like, why would you even want him? I don't think he could perform. And it was the truth. And everybody knows I've always been that guy that, like, I don't hold my tongue. I don't mind, looking at certain players and saying, hey, that guy is good, and looking at certain players and going, and that guy's terrible. And, the sad part about pro football is it's a lot of nepotism. It's a lot of, oh, this guy's played, so let me, sign him. And people think that different scenery or different coaching styles could help. And sometimes it does, and most times it doesn't. That's one of the things that I always had a little peeve about, pro football. It's like, if a head coach is bad in one city and he gets fired, what makes you think he's going to go to another city and be successful? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of good young coaches out there. I think, part of the CFL struggle with finding good coaches is that coaches cap is going to make it tough to bring in really good quality young coaches who want to build a career in the CFL, because the money's just not there for them. And, there's more money to be a college football coach in the States. There's more money to be, maybe more opportunity to probably coach in maybe one of the lesser leagues down here, like the UFL. I'm not saying that it's a lesser league, but saying like a league that doesn't have as long of a history as the CFL. Coaches like that, leagues like that is going to be able to pay coaches a little more, right? Because, from my personal experience, Canadian dollar is nowhere near as strong as the US dollar. So, for you to be able to come down here and make 50, 60, 70,000, that's the equivalent of, making 80, 90, 100,000 in Canada. So, I think just a lot of that is going to, mess with the quality of coaching. It's going to mess with the quality of talent. Like I said, college football players now are making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Like, for a top program college football player to come play in the CFL, he's essentially taking a huge pay cut. Some guys they're not going to want to come play for peanuts anymore unless they, and then the CFL is going to turn back to, a development league, right? Guys are just going to want to come up there just to get some film for a year or two, and then they're going to bounce out. And then fans are going to always be complaining about, their favorite player only being there for a season or two, or their favorite player only being with their team for a season or two and going to the next team who's willing to pay them because the team that they started with and did good with doesn't want to, open up the purse strings. So that's just going to be the reality of the CFL for a while until they can figure out a way to grow the game from a financial standpoint and be able to start, paying players more, right? Because I always tell people the difference between a CFL player and an NFL player is really the money that they make. Talent is no different. Size of the players is really no different. There's a lot of guys in the CFL who could be really good NFL players, but that numbers game and the politics of it just kind of, messes with their opportunities. And then, the reason why we look at NFL players in a certain light is because of the media hoopla around them, right? These guys are built to be rock stars, right? They're making all this type of money. They're in commercials. They getting endorsement deals. They got, shoe deals. They go into, parties and award shows and all types of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, being able to do that type of stuff is going to allow fans to look at those players like they're larger than life, right? And I know the uniqueness of the CFL is that, fans got a little more, opportunity to kind of, reach out and touch players and conversate with them and kind of build those relationships, right? But in order to kind of get out of that, Bush League mindset or, certain fans that want to kind of the not the diehards, but the casual fans to buy into the CFL, you got to build that entertainers, profile for the pro athletes up north. And that's something that they got to figure out,
Yeah, shout out to Scout from the Elks Herd is in the chat. CFL legend Double D, lots of nepotism in football. Great words. He also goes on to say, hang on. He's got a great comment here. CFL teams got to pay the money to get the quality. Cap might need a bump to solve that problem, but the league also needs to bring in the money.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, that's really what's hurting the CFL is that, they can't get the sponsorship dollars that they need. They can't get the, because honestly, that's really what the NFL, the bulk of why the NFL salary cap is so big is because of those TV deals, man. They're getting millions and billions of dollars off of these streaming networks and Amazon paid billions of dollars just to be able to show one game a week, right? Like that's the type of stuff that they got to find a way to kind of build that profile. And I know it's going to be tough. And I always tell people, man, if you look into the history of the CFL, man, at one point the CFL was bigger than the NFL, right? But they figured out a way to, and I granted, U.S. is a bigger country. There's more cities, there's more teams to be able to build that profile. But, hopefully they could get a 10th team, and then hopefully they could find, you see what a team like BC has done when you get an owner who's not a football person, but just a business person who's a fan and wants to put money into the team. And, BC had 50 Cent performing at their very first game of the year and sold it out. That type of stuff is going to bring in the dollars to be able to, pay players, man, to get quality players that want to be with a team who's going to treat them like a professional athlete should be treated. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of guys out there that could kind of help the CFL get that done. A lot of past greats who probably would love to, be able to have that effect on the league and be able to help it grow. But, that's something that, needs to be tapped into more. That's another market that they need to tap into more, right? Tapping back into, the Charleston Hughes of the world, the great players that retired, man, like not just having them in front office roles, but having them kind of be involved in that marketing and media sense to be able to build that profile. I mean, that's another, untapped market that they need to figure out too as well.
Yeah, Scout goes on to ask, do you think bringing back marquee players is a solution? Cap exempt players.
You got to keep the marquee players, honestly, right? You look at a Geno Lewis who could go to, Edmonton and make, 250, 260 as a non-quarterback, right? You look at the Kenny Lawlers of the world, right? The Dominic Rhymes, man, the unfortunate part is, there is a small salary cap, and teams are allowed, it's in the CBA, teams are allowed to spend to the basement of that salary cap. They don't have to spend to the ceiling. And a lot of people don't realize that some of these GMs and front office people, they get, kind of bonuses and kickbacks when they save money, so that's part of the reason why, Calgary was so good at building teams, right? Because there was a large pool of players that they could pull from that didn't really have anywhere else to go. And they could kind of just say, hey, if you want to play football, we're going to give you this minimum contract, or, we're going to stash you on practice squad because this guy's going to ball out and he's going to want to go get paid and go somewhere else. And then we're just going to bump you up, and then you're going to get that opportunity, and then we're going to let you leave, and hopefully we stash somebody else on practice squad. But, it's the same situation that you see with the New England Patriots, right? For a long time, you had the Tom Brady in place, you had the Rob Gronkowski in place, you had the key defensive players that you could just plug and play around and kind of keep the train moving. And then once Tom Brady left, once Bo Levi Mitchell left, you don't got the guys who's willing to take that less money to play with that marquee player because he's not there no more. So, yeah, man, it's a slippery slope. It's a tough world, but you got to be able to understand the landscape. You got to understand the type of players that you need to fit your system. That's where scouting comes into play. That's where being able to find, the thing I always had a pet peeve about with CFL teams is because a guy played in the NFL, they automatically think like, oh, we're going to sign this guy. He's going to come up here and play well. But how many times have we seen NFL players come up to the CFL and just crash and burn before they can even get out of training camp? Man, I was in Saskatchewan. Yeah. I mean, I was in training camp when Saskatchewan signed Vince Young. And Vince was in camp looking like he never threw a football before. Like, it was just, it was bad. I was there when they brought in Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson didn't really do much, right? And that's a marquee U.S. player, right? So, we saw Chad Ochocinco go to Montreal and not really do much, man. We saw, Ricky Williams go to Toronto and not really do too much, right? It's a long list of guys that you could. Yeah, there's a long list of guys you could name off that was big NFL names that just couldn't come up to the CFL and get it done, right? So scouting is big, man. You got to get out of looking at this guy was in an NFL training camp, we're going to bring him in. But you got to find players who have the game that fit your coaching style, that fit your system. You got to understand that you have the right leaders in your locker room and veteran players that can bring along anybody. And that's what always made Calgary good. That's what helped me kind of make that transition, because I came into a locker room with the Juwan Simpsons and the Deron Mayos and the guys like that, right? I had Joe West, man. I had like veteran guys who just kind of built that culture, right? And I always tell people, coaches and front office people don't build the culture. It's the players who do, right? And Calgary was always known for having great veteran players who wanted to stick around and be a part of the culture, and they was able to assimilate the young guys. So you don't see that anymore. The Stampeders aren't built that way, so that's why they're struggling. So yeah, hopefully they could figure it out.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier that teams in the CFL just don't have the talent pool that they did back in the 2016s, 2018s. Winnipeg Blue Bombers seem unstoppable with Collaros, Oliveira, Lawler, Dembski, and then the Alouette side, you got guys that are playing insane as well. Are these two going to meet in the Grey Cup, or is there a dark horse we need to be aware of? Do you think?
Honestly, I think there's a very good chance you could see Saskatchewan versus Toronto.
Yeah.
I think Sash has a really good roster. Corey Mace is my guy. I played under Mace, built a great relationship with him. He's got a lot of good coaches on his staff, man. The Edwin Harrisons who played, the Josh Bells. Mueller's is one of my guys too as well. Mueller's there. And I think they do a good job of, scouting the right type of players, and their coaches understand the right type of players to scout, because one of the guys who was around for Calgary and was instrumental in helping find players, who's the assistant GM in Saskatchewan, Kyle Carson. He's got a great eye for talent, and he's one of those guys who always will be watching film. I remember Kyle used to always come and sit in the O-line room with us and listen to the things that we talked about and watch certain players and be like, hey, like get an idea of, okay, what type of build, what type of players is going to be successful, man. One of my favorite old linemen in the league right now, Saskatchewan, got Logan Ferland. I think he's going to be most outstanding lineman this year, man. I'm a big fan of his. He's got a great number, 63, by the way. I think right now they're getting hot at the right time. They're feeling confident. They got a great roster in place. They got some really good receivers, man. KSB, Sam Emulis, and some of those other guys. They got a two-headed monster running back right now between AJ Ouellette and Raquel Armstead. and their defense is really good, man. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them pull off an upset in Winnipeg. I think if they could be able to find a way to, create some turnovers on defense and offense, Trevor Harris takes care of the ball and doesn't do any stupid turnovers, and they can kind of eat up the clock, running the ball. I think they got a good shot to beat them. And then I think right now Toronto, that's Calgary East, man. They pretty much got the 2018 Calgary Stampeders in Toronto, and I think another coach that was in Calgary that was very instrumental in our offense back in the day, Pete Costanza, and then the head coach and Dinwiddie as well. So they got I think Toronto's got the pieces in place. I think right now Montreal has a lot of injuries. Cody missed a lot of time. Sometimes having that bye week is not always the best because guys get a little too relaxed, too rested. But I think it should be a good game. But if it's not Winnipeg, Montreal, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Saskatchewan, Toronto.
Yeah, you mentioned Trevor Harris. So I can't cheer for the Riders, but I can cheer for Trevor Harris. I'm glad to see Trevor Harris doing well. I was glad last year to see Cody Fajardo doing well. I really like those guys. So yeah, it's going to be a toss-up, really, who meets in the Grey Cup, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's two really good matchups. The game could really go either way, but it's going to be in the playoffs. It's all about momentum. It's all about capitalizing on the plays that's there to be made and not turning the ball over. So if you could hold on to the ball, you could capitalize on the plays that's available to you, and then you really honestly defense wins championships. So you could find a way to keep the other team off the scoreboard or keep them to field goals, and your team is scoring touchdowns. Got a really good shot to make some noise.
Yeah, Scout says that's a bold take, assuming he's talking about you saying Toronto meeting the Riders in the Grey Cup. Would love anyone but the Bombers to make it in. I agree, Scout.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing the Bombers in there.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I was mad at the rest of the West because they had Bombers. They had the Bombers down for the count early in the season, and they let them find their groove and kind of take off on them, man. But Edmonton kind of turned it on too late. BC kind of floundered and lost it, and then when they did that switch at quarterback between Nathan and BA, I think that was a really bad decision at that time in the season. That kind of hurt them. Yeah, man. I mean, so it's going to be a fun Grey Cup. I mean, I think Vancouver is an awesome city. It's going to be a great event. I think Amar and the CFL is going to do a great job of putting on a real class act event in Vancouver, and that's always been one of my favorite cities. I might try to find a way to come up to Vancouver for the Grey Cup and kind of partake in some festivities if I can.
Yeah, you can't find a better location for the Grey Cup. The weather is certainly perfect, and then the game's indoors, so
that's what I'm saying. Weather's not even going to be an issue because you're going to be playing it inside, so you can't really beat it, man. It's going to be a good atmosphere.
Great weather outside, great weather inside.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Vancouver's definitely one of those fun cities where they can make the Grey Cup festivities really fun, man. That was always one of my favorite cities to go visit when I was a player. So I think Vancouver and Montreal was one of my two favorite cities to play in. So it's definitely going to be a fun event.
Who's taking home the MOP, Brady Oliveira or Bo Levi?
I'm biased. Bo Money Banks has got it. I mean, honestly, I know the team didn't really do well, and the Ticats kind of found their streak a little too late. They was actually my pick at the beginning of the season to, play in the Grey Cup. And I think if they had started playing like they did towards the end of the year a little earlier, I think they would have made the playoffs and made some noise. But honestly, man, come on, the guy got benched and still threw for over 5,000 yards. He threw for 1,000 more yards than Zach Caleros. He led the league in touchdowns. I mean, honestly, the award is called Most Outstanding Player. It's not called Most Outstanding Player on the best team in the league. It's called, the guy who really had the best singular season. So Brady had a great year. Brady's a big reason why Winnipeg was able to turn things around. Shout out to him. I think because he's up for two major awards, I think they're probably going to give it to Bo Levi and then let Brady win Most Outstanding Canadian. So that's my opinion on how that's going to play out.
I would have to agree. I watched Bo play in a few games this year, and it seemed like he was firing it well wherever he wanted and was having his way with everybody. They just can pull out wins.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I was happy for him. That's my guy. I know he's been going through a little bit of adversity the last, 3-4 years. So to be able to see him kind of come back and have that, Ricky Reyes comeback season where he's just lighting the league up again, and it's unfortunate he's not going to be able to cap that off with a Grey Cup. But I think next season he's definitely going to be more comfortable with that offense. I think him and Belanovich have found a way to kind of build that relationship to understand each other. And they got some great receivers. That's going to be able to come back and play. So I would expect Hamilton to be one of those top teams next season.
Two situations I want you to comment on real quick. I don't want to keep you too long. Number one, Edmonton Elks, McLeod Bethel Thompson versus why is his name drawn a blank?
Trey Ford.
Trey Ford. And in BC, you got VA and Rourke. What's going to happen in both of those places?
I think, the McLeod's got another year on his deal. I think they paid him, high-end starter money. And unfortunately, when you commit that type of money to a player, especially if they let him get to the point where he gets like that guaranteed money. And I think too, because when you're a veteran player, I think normally the second year of your deal, you could work out some guarantees in your deal now. So if McLeod got some guaranteed money, I think it's going to be tough. Trey's going to have to either want to, be a package quarterback or be a backup and wait for an injury, or maybe somebody else in the league is going to want to give him a chance. I think it's a very real possibility that Trey Ford and VA is going to be on two different teams this season. There's a few teams out there who's starving for a starting quarterback. Calgary being one of them. So
Yeah.
Calgary being one of them. So I think you're probably going to see. And VA is one of my all-time favorite teammates. We were together in Saskatchewan. I got to know VA really well. I've always been a really big fan of his. He's definitely a great locker room guy. He's a great leader. He was having an MOP season before he got hurt, and then he got benched, which was unfortunate. But he's definitely a guy that you could bring into your team and change the culture, and guys will rally around him and want to play for him. So I know he'll be fine. I know it sucks that he probably wants to be in BC because he's closer to home. He's able to be closer to his family and do those types of things. But unfortunately, they backed up the Brinks truck for Rourke coming back from the NFL. So it's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough for him to make that decision on whether he wants to either be a backup or he wants to go be a starter and go prove that BC made a mistake.
Yeah. All right. Last question, then I'll let you go. You've had green hair, red hair. What color is the hair right now?
Oh no, it's normal, man. I'm in corporate America, man. You can't be in the office and meetings with people and having colored hair. They'll look at you some type of way. So I retired the colored hair years ago just because I'm getting up there in age, and my hair don't grow back the way it used to, and I didn't want to go bald by damaging it with chemicals too soon. So my hair's normal shade right now, regular cut. Looking like an average everyday citizen, man. I'm not the Bonecrusher no more. but yeah, if I ever do get an opportunity to do it again in some shape or way, maybe if I, by the grace of God, if I get a CFL coaching job in the future or something like that, if somebody decides to bring me back in some capacity, maybe I'll bring it back for the fans.
Yeah, no PepsiCo Blue, eh?
No. Trust when I tell you, I don't think the higher ups would really enjoy me being in a meeting talking about serious stuff, and I got colored hair.
Scout says DD was awesome tonight. Thanks for the great insight and opinions.
I appreciate you, Scout, man. Thank you.
All right, Derek Dennis, thanks for hopping on tonight and sharing your opinions and thoughts. And it was a great conversation that went a lot longer than I thought it would. I could probably talk all night.
That's normally how it goes, man. When you're getting good information and good tidbits, and you feel like it's nice sound bites, man. It's good to get it, man. But I appreciate it, man. It's always fun to get a chance to talk about, my past life and the things I did and talk football, man. That's I love the game. So, and I still watch from the shadows and pay close attention. And every once in a while, I pop on Twitter and give my opinions on some stuff to kind of shake the room. But yeah, man. Anytime you need me, man, I'm always here, Jason.
Hey, if you want to get back into that journalism career, I could probably use a co-host.
hey, listen, let me know, man. We could get that viewership up. I'll dye my hair then if you want me to.
Nice, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a great night.
All right, Jason. Appreciate you, man. You have a good one too.
Thanks a lot, Derek. All right, Derek Dennis, formerly of the Calgary Stampeders, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and various NFL teams. And what a talk with Derek. That, like I said, went a lot longer than I thought it would, but that's great. I don't mind sitting and talking, and I don't got anywhere else to be. So, sports fans and friends on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we go live or post. And like and follow at Puck and Pigskin on X, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere. I'm everywhere. That does it for me here at Puck and Pigskin World Headquarters. Go check out all the great shows on the Shotgun Sports Network, including the Elks Call with my friends Catherine and Scout, a.k.a. the Elks Herd. They go live every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time, on the Shotgun Sports Network YouTube channel. From Puck and Pigskin World Headquarters here in Red Deer, Alberta. Have a great night, everybody.